Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Over the last few months, we have been inundated with viewer questions, so today we're going to skip straight to the Q&A segment. That's just ahead of the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Dr. Lilia Kelly. Dr. Kelly is our garden expert, and Joellen Diamond is here. Joellen is Director of Landscape at the University of Memphis. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
This is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
We got a lot of questions, y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all ready?
Yeah, ready.
All right, let's get to it. I'm considering planting an hibiscus in my yard. Which hibiscus variety should I buy if I wanted to survive the winter here in Zone 7? And this is from Karen Natoka. Your neck of the woods, Joellen.
Yeah. Well, there's quite a variety to choose from. I know that there's a seed form that's called a Dixie Belle mix that you can plant, and that's perennial.
Okay.
And then there's lots of different varieties. There's one that's really, really hardy. It's the Mos Yutos variety, and that's really hardy everywhere, and that's a very tall hibiscus. They usually are red and different forms of red and sizes of flowers. But there's a wide variety of them, and I would seriously consider not getting anything that has a really woody stem. Really, really woody stems usually, and there'll just be one stem out of the container. Those are usually tropical, and those are not going to live. What you're going to look for is something that's got multi-stems coming out from the base, and that's most likely going to be perennial coming from the base of the plant that's underground.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. And one that I really like that is really hardy in this neck of the woods is the Texas Star hibiscus.
Okay.
The Hibiscus coccineus. You know, and it's really hard. It's got these really, it looks like a Japanese maple leaves, and it has the big, you know, pretty red, solid red, gorgeous blooms. But she's right, there are so many different, you know, varieties out there, because I was up in Middle Tennessee a few weeks ago, and it must have been the season for Disco Bells and the others. I mean, I just about ran off the road. Y'all, they're like dinner plate. Gorgeous. So there's a lot. Proven Winners has a whole line of them out. So there's a lot of choices out there.
Lots of choices.
Right.
Yeah.
Lots of choices, Karen. All right, thank you for that question. Here's our next email. I found many holes near my home's foundation. Our yard hosts chipmunks and squirrels, and I'm sure we have voles as well. Nearby are several large foundation plantings of boxwood, azaleas, and Nellie R. Stevens holly. Should I worry? If so, what can be done? Thank you, and this is Randy right here in Memphis. Let's go back to this for a second. And I'm sure I have voles.
I'm sure I have voles.
Well,
He answered his own question.
well, what do you think, John?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he sure does. But you know what? He has a great environment for wildlife.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
he
squirrels,
really does.
chipmunks. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously they're not eating any of the things that he's talking about, which is good.
Okay.
Now, if he starts putting in, like hosta and things like that, then, you know, those critters are going to start eating some of those. But if he just, I don't think he should be bothered by the holes unless he just doesn't want a wildlife in his yard. I mean, get a cat, get a dog, and
Get a bunch of chicken snakes. You know, they're.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the balance of nature, really.
Yeah.
True.
You know, you've got, voles really, the snakes are harmless snakes, like the chicken snake, the king snake, they eat those things.
Yeah, I said it all
So,
the time.
you know,
but people are like,
yeah, snakes. Snakes are good. It's the right snake in a garden, particularly,
Right.
because they eat the vermin.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like the balance of nature thing.
I would agree with that.
You know, as long as it's not hurting his plants, I wouldn't worry about it either. But I would suggest not putting in, like she said, hostas, because they'll suck them right into the ground.
Yeah, I tell
Nothing
people all the time,
left.
voles have expensive taste.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
expensive
Yeah.
plants. That's for sure.
I don't know what. Maybe we should ask me that on the side first, because I get aggravated at them in my yard, and I don't like all those little holes. You know, and the
But she
voles.
probably doesn't, yeah.
Yeah, the voles
Yeah.
come in after moles have made the tunnels.
Right.
And then the voles use the tunnels. And snakes
Yeah.
are good, really seriously. But if they were eating my roses, they were eating some of my mature rose roots around the crown, and mulch over everything is a great thing, but they use that mulch for cover.
Yes, they do.
And so I
know
got
that.
so aggravated with them, I just found some rat poison, and I put it down in the individual holes. And that just stopped them for a little while.
Yeah.
You know, it's a temporary fix.
Sure.
And then I would go back and fill the holes in. But it's an ongoing problem.
Yes, it is.
You cannot eliminate them.
Whether you use
just got to kind of
mouse
control them.
traps or whatever
Oh,
the case
yeah,
may
no,
be, you
yeah.
still got to keep
Yeah,
going.
there's still
a cat,
traps.
you know, a
Yeah.
good mama cat, that's the best hunter, you know. So,
Yeah.
no easy solution.
No easy solution.
No, but I've had them, and they were eating all of my asparagus and my hosta, and so I finally, you know, I just kept trying to keep the mulch out, so it was bare in the winter, so
Yeah,
they
that's
didn't
what
have
you
any
said.
cover, and it reduced them. And then this year I've had garden snakes in my yard, and I'm like going, oh yeah, good, nice and healthy, eat those voles.
Yeah.
So
Garter snakes.
Yeah.
they're good. I see those in my yard too.
Yeah.
So I'll leave the snakes alone. You know, I really do.
So there
And I
you
grow
have
my hostas in pots.
Oh, and pots. That's something
Yes,
else
I
to think
do.
about. Yeah, forgot about
Sometimes you
that.
just gotta move on.
All right, so we'll move on. All right, Mr. Randy. Good luck to you. All right. Here's our next viewer email. I found this growing on a small young oak tree in my front yard. What is it? And this is Catherine. Yeah, we know what that is. That's a gall from a cynipid wasp.
Yeah, now, I didn't know that. I just knew it was a wasp.
Snippet
So
wasp.
yeah,
and
good
learned
for
a little
you.
bit about that from Wes Hopper, who's been on the
Oh,
show,
okay.
a certified arborist,
Okay.
and looked at some pictures, and that's what that is.
That's what it is. It was a
That's what it
peculiar
is.
shape.
Yeah, it's different
That's what
shape.
kind of threw me, because most galls, you know, are round.
Right.
The insect
Right.
galls. So
And most of the, big knotty galls that you see on your
woody
oak
ones,
trees,
yeah, the woody ones, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, usually caused by wasp.
Yeah.
Yeah, which are beneficial.
Yeah.
Wasps are beneficial. And of course, once they, cut a slit and lay an egg, and of course the reaction,
Yeah.
the chemical reaction, from that plant is to
Right.
form that gall.
To isolate it.
Yes.
Like disease in our body.
Yep.
Things get encapsulated.
Isn't that cool though?
Yeah,
How
it
that
is.
happens?
Yeah.
Yeah, and inside of some of those galls, of course, would be eggs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're
Interesting.
inside of there. They're eating.
Yeah.
They're feeding.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then you get something like that. Miss
I know, it looks
Catherine.
like something from outer space.
Yeah, it
sometimes,
does.
You know?
Yeah.
Alien bodies on our plants.
I can see how you can look at that and be like, what is that?
Yeah, man, that looks really bad. It's got a tumor.
Yeah, something tough. All right, so Catherine, we appreciate that picture. Good picture, by the way. All right.
And don't worry about it.
Yeah, and don't worry
Don't
about
worry
it.
about
Yeah,
it.
don't worry about that.
Yeah. I mean,
don't
if
worry
it
about
really
that.
it's a young oak tree, she said.
Yeah, it's young. Yeah,
If she
young
could
oak tree.
get to the leaves and it really bothers her, she can pull all that
pull
off.
them
But
off.
otherwise I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that at
Yeah.
all. I wouldn't worry about it. So it's a gall of a cynipid wasp. All right, here's our next viewer email. Our land has several large black walnut trees that provide welcome shade. However, we can't grow a garden. It seems to be too much for land weakened by years of cotton farming. We've tried the usual fertilizing, mulching, even built raised beds to no avail. I have heard that you can't grow a garden near black walnut trees, that the roots put something into the soil that ruins it for gardens. Is this true? Is it the black walnuts, the soil, or something else? And this is from J.A.D. from Jackson, Tennessee. So how about that? Let's go out there. I've heard though, you can't do that, right? Is it something in the roots?
Yeah.
What could it be?
Yes.
What is
Yeah.
it? It's something in the roots.
Juglans, yeah.
Ah, okay. So what does that do?
Well, it's not only in the roots, but it's in the whole plant.
whole
So
plant.
wherever
Whole
the
plant.
drip line of the tree, and then maybe some past that, wherever the walnut trees do not like to have any competition. So they put out this Juglans chemical that keeps everything out from living around it as much as possible.
Allelopathic.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what that is.
Exactly.
Allelopathy.
A lot
Yeah.
of plants do that,
Yeah.
more than you probably realize. Some in greater degrees than others,
Yes.
but the walnut's notorious for that. You know, particularly solanaceous crops like tomatoes,
tomatoes,
peppers, eggplants, potatoes. It'll flat kill them.
Yeah.
But there are plants that will, you know, can grow under and not, you know, not have that problem. And I suggest if they really want to grow a garden, to go online, and there's some good university sites out there. I think I looked at North Carolina and maybe some others that have lists of different landscape plants that can tolerate being under the walnut tree. And if they really want to grow something under, that's what I would suggest they do. And a raised bed's not going to help.
No.
Because
No.
the
No different
litter falling
experience.
from the tree,
Yes.
you know, the feeder roots coming up through it is still going to get the chemical.
right.
Yeah.
So, but there are things you can grow. You just have to be selective.
Okay.
Yeah, it may not be vegetables though.
Yeah, it may not be vegetables. Vegetables are more, you know, prone to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sensitive, I guess you'd say.
Sensitive.
Right.
All right. There you have it, JAD. You got to be careful. Can't grow much under those
can't do
black
everything.
walnuts.
And
Not
shade
much.
might be a problem as well. Some
Yes,
things he's
yes,
doing.
yeah.
Or, you know, if it was a cotton farm, you know, the soil may be depleted.
It may be
I would
depleted of
suggest, you know,
nutrients.
get a soil test
Yes,
as well.
soil test.
You know,
Maybe.
see what the pH is for
I
a
agree with that.
particular whatever he's trying to grow. You know, take care of that.
Yeah, but that juggling is something else.
Yep.
Allelopathy. All right. So here's our next viewer email. I have 2 2-year-old loquats in containers on my porch. As long as they are watered, they aren't stressed. Can they be container grown on my front deck? The ceiling height is 8 feet, and this is from Donna in Holly Springs. All right, Miss Donna. So, you know a little bit about
I
loquat.
do. I have loquats
Yeah.
in my yard, and they're trees. You know, they're one of the most beautiful broadleaf evergreens that we have in the South, but they're not winter hardy much further north than this. But I have them, and this is for her in Holly Springs, I have them in my yard in Corinth, which is a little bit north of Holly Springs. So, but I have them on the south side of my house, so they're protected. But they bloom like in December, and they will not set fruit because the blooms will, you know, the frost will get them. So if she's expecting fruit, it's not going to happen. But they're beautiful for the way they look. But if she wants to grow them in containers on her back porch, which is very pretty, she'll have to keep cutting the top out because they're a tree. They're going to get big.
Yeah.
You know, so she could try maybe putting a couple out in the yard, putting them on the south side where they're kind of protected from the winter winds, and the ground doesn't get just really cold like up against the house, like you do a fig tree.
Okay,
you know?
okay.
But
Makes
yeah,
sense.
they're beautiful, and I love mine, and they smell so good when they bloom. But you know, they'll always freeze. Never get any fruit. I have a friend that grows them in Starkville. He gets fruit every year.
Wow.
Makes me mad.
In looking at her picture, and she says it does well when it's watered, and it gets to be a tree. I'm thinking the size of container she has is a little too small
Okay,
for
so
it.
she needs to go
So
up
I
a
would
couple
just go up
size?
in size with our container, so that and I would put some soil moist crystals in it, you know, to help retain the moisture in the container. So maybe she won't have to water it so much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there you have it, Miss Donna. All right. Here's our next viewer email. I have several large juniper bushes in my yard. They have morning glory and poison ivy or oak growing up through them. What can I do to remove the morning glories and poison ivy from my junipers? This is Miss Cindy. All right, Jola, what do you think?
Yeah, I see the poison ivy too. But you know, pulling them out, getting some nice long sleeves and gloves, and make sure you've got covered, and carefully pulling or cutting off those vines and pulling them out. And then maybe taking some glyphosate and painting on the base of them. That's what I would do, pull them out, because you know, junipers there are things you can spray on them, but you're gonna have to keep spraying it. It would be easier to get them out of there and just treat the stump that's left. I mean, you don't have to pull it from the roots out of there, but put some glyphosate on that part. Or if you want to, so I've known people who pulled vines out of juniper and then sprayed the vine after they pulled it out of the juniper and then let it die and then got rid of it.
Oh, okay.
It's
Oh, I
just
see what you're
Oh,
saying.
yeah, I see what
Not
you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah, that's for love.
to
Yeah,
pull
let's
it
go.
out,
Yeah,
get it away
from
from the
Right.
juniper and
And
then
spray.
spray
I
it.
got you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done that myself,
Yeah.
or especially Virginia creeper.
Yeah, Virginia
Yeah.
creeper.
Yeah, I
for
have
sure.
a lot of problems with it
Okay.
in my beds. So.
So anything you want to add to that, Doc? Or you do the same
No,
thing for the
she's
most part?
covered it
Okay.
real well. Yeah, I think she's right. I'd hand pull all that stuff and just try to get that darn morning glory before it starts setting
Yeah,
the
morning
seed.
glory is tough. Yeah, it says
setting the
seed. You're gonna
seeds
have a
everywhere.
problem.
Yeah.
You have a problem there. All right, Miss Cindy, got some work to do. All right, be careful out there. All right, here's our next via email. Oh yeah, can someone identify this plant for me? I haven't a clue to what it is or how to best take care of it. And this is from Judy from Barton, Mississippi.
Oh,
You must know
okay.
you were gonna be here today.
Yeah, I guess so.
Barton, Mississippi, right? So do we know what that is?
Yeah, we know what that is. Yeah, it's a sedum.
It's a
Yeah, it's
sedum.
one of the tall growing sedums from the way it
sedum.
looks, you know. So yeah, they're hardy probably too. You know, some of those kinds of sedums are winter hardy. And so just the main thing about these dudes is don't overwater. Put them in a really well-drained place. And most of them require, you know, full sun. And it looked like it was trying to bloom a little bit. A lot of them bloom, you know, this time of year. You know, my autumn joy sedum is blooming right now. So yeah, it's a nice plant. Real hardy in the right place, full sun, well-drained soil. Yeah, it's a good plant.
It's a good plant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I have some, and they're planted in a bed on the east side of my house where the dryer vent comes out. And so they survive really well there. I don't know.
Get that hot wind
Yeah,
like
hot
the
wind.
desert or something. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
That's pretty hot.
it's warm.
All right, so thank you for that question. All right, here's our next viewer email. Hi, Dr. Cooper. I love your program and never miss an episode. Thank you, we appreciate that.
A real fan.
Now I need a bit of advice. I have 4 tomato plants in pots on my back patio. All were doing quite well, especially with all the afternoon rain we've been getting here in Memphis. However, 2 days ago, I went to pick cherry tomatoes and found it withering. Do you have any idea what could have caused this? When I don't get rain, I water from a rain barrel. I have not applied any herbicides or fertilizers. I planted in Miracle Grow garden soil. At this rate, it will be dead in a week. But I want the knowledge in case it happens again. I don't think it's a blight because it didn't have the spotted leaves I associated with blight. The withered leaves came off in my hand when I touched them. And this is from Tyra right here in Memphis. Great detail.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great detail.
Yeah.
All right,
Nice pictures,
yeah,
too.
Good pictures.
Yeah.
All right, so what do we think?
I think she loves it to death, and she's watering it to death.
Watered it too much.
Yeah,
I think.
it's just
watered it
too much water. Yeah, tomatoes do like even moisture, but they don't like a lot of even moisture. They
Right.
like to get a little bit dry, without drying out
Right.
between waterings. And I think she just watered it a little bit too much. I would just watch the watering, and you know, the top might look dry.
Yeah.
But I say, you know, your finger is probably the best water meter you can find.
to
And
the
if
knuckle?
you can
Yeah.
put your fingers down in the soil and you can still feel moisture down there, then I wouldn't water it. I would wait till you can it starts getting dry when you poke your fingers in the container, and then water it.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
And
Doc?
I know the Miracle Grow soils, some
okay.
of them can be real water retentive.
Uh-huh.
You know, high
I was-
organic matter
yeah, I was
peat
gonna
moss
mention
or
that.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can be just the top dry, but down in the bottom, it'll almost be soppy sometimes. Especially it needs to be well drained out the
Yes.
bottom.
Yes.
You know, and sometimes you need to lift that pot up, put on little pot feet, so that the water is
Pot feet,
draining
okay.
out, you know, well, because that can happen sometimes. Get kind of waterlogged, but yet a little bit drier on the top, but
Yeah.
waterlogged at the base, maybe not draining like it should as well.
And I'll tell you something else. She's been watering
And it's been
afternoon
raining. Yeah.
showers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little benign neglect is a good thing.
It's a good thing. Good thing. So Ms. Tyra, thank you, and thank you for watching the show. We appreciate that question. All right, here's our next viewer email. This vine is growing on a tree stump in my yard. It has green berries that later turned black. What is it? And is it edible? And this is Michelle from Frazier. Guess what, Michelle? We know somebody who actually grew this vine. Doc, did you grow this
Yeah,
vine?
I grow stuff, and I kill a lot of stuff too,
God,
though.
yeah,
I
I
gotta
do that.
say, but
I
you know,
do
it's
that.
like it's my laboratory.
Uh-huh,
You know, like Frankenstein or something. I can tell you absolutely how to kill stuff. You know, maybe not always how to grow it, but yeah, I've grown this vine, and it's called the trailing or vine and cucumber or Guadalupe cucumber. You know, it's Malorthia pendula. It's an annual vine. It's used sometimes just as an ornamental, and sometimes it can get a little invasive. And it likes to, you know, trail around on things, and the little fruit on it is pretty tiny, you know, and I think it's even called like mouse vine or something in some books I've looked at. But I like it because it's kind of ornamental, you know. And as far as the edible thing, again, err on the side of caution. I know there's contradictory information out there on the internet, and it's an issue of at the particular time of ripeness. It's like the mayapple. You know, the mayapple has very poisonous roots, or the pokeweed. You know, it has the poisonous fruit. It's that part of the plant you have to be particular about. So I would say err on the side of caution and don't try to eat it. Even though if you see on the internet that it is edible at certain stages of development, how do you know, when it's at that point that it becomes from edible to toxic? So I would say just, grow it for its ornamental value.
All right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Malorthia pendula. Guadalupe cucumber.
Guadalupe cucumber.
Yeah.
I like that. There you have it, Michelle. Guadalupe cucumber. Good stuff. All right, here's our next viewer email. Year after year, my blueberry produces lots of fruit, but they never ripen. They just slowly turn hard and eventually they fall off. What can I do to get ripe blueberries? Do I have the right variety? And this is Martin in Knoxville. All right. So what do you think about that, Doc?
Well, it could be several things. There's a disease called mummy fruit that I have seen on my own blueberries, not to the extent that he's describing. It would just be a few berries here and there. And culturally, you just hand pick them, take the mulch out and, rake up the plant debris and the little mummified fruit every year, reapply the mulch. And it could also be with the rabbit eye blueberries is what I'm assuming that he has, which is the most common group that we grow down here in this part of the world. But they do better if you get two named varieties because they set more fruit.
Thank you for
They're
mentioning that.
self-fertile, but they set more fruit if they can cross-pollinate. So if he's just got the one variety, he might look and think about getting another one.
Yes.
A different one.
Yes.
So that it'll set. But the mummy fruit, just culturally, take care of the mummified fruit, take it off, rake it up, do something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably rabbit eye. I'm thinking
Yes.
Tiff blue, climax comes to
Right,
mind,
yeah.
garden blue, bright
And
blue.
Tiff blue,
yeah.
some of the ones that I've looked at, some of them are more sensitive to that disease. So there are some that are a little bit more resistant.
Okay.
So you might want to do a little research before he buys that other variety.
Okay.
If it is some mummy fruit, disease going on.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. Didn't know that. Okay. All right, Martin. Hope that helps you out. Here's our next viewer email. I like this one. Can the pH of the soil under my gravel driveway be adjusted so grass and weeds will not grow? And this is from Jim. Isn't that? Some thought went into that.
I
like that one.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate his thought.
That was pretty good.
And it's a
That was
good
pretty good.
thought.
Yeah.
Because we have, where's this from? Is this from around here?
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know.
Well, around here we have more acidic soil. And if you have a lime driveway like I do, limestone driveway, you'd think that the change in pH would help with the weeds or algae and everything that gets in the ground.
Yes.
But you know
Yes.
something? It doesn't. So, I mean, you still have to get rid of weeds because this pH range for plants is pretty high. I mean, it's pretty long. I don't know if you could, if you would want to change the pH so much that nothing would grow there because,
It's going to leach into other areas.
it's going to go
Yeah.
somewhere else. I don't think
Right.
you would want to do that. I think it would just be easier to spray it with Roundup or glyphosate or something that, that's going to kill the weeds.
Yeah. But he's
On
tried.
algicide. He tried. He was
Thinking
trying.
creatively.
I liked
He really
that.
is.
Yes.
Yeah, he's
that was
thinking creatively.
That was a thought, but the pH range is too wide for plants.
Yeah. And it would be too
Yeah,
hard to
but-
contain it within that little area.
Yeah, I
If
think
he's
about
going
that,
to treat
yeah.
it with sulfur
Yeah.
or something.
And if he has
I'm
trees that have roots
Yeah.
underneath it, you don't
He's
want to
thinking,
mess with
he's
that.
thinking good though.
He's
Yeah.
trying.
Yep.
I like that.
He's trying. All right, SJ, we appreciate that question. You're definitely trying. All right, here's our next viewer email. Is this some type of iris? We found it on side of the road a few years ago, close to the Hatchie at Shirless, Tennessee. This is from Charlie right here in Middleton, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So what do we think that is? Beautiful picture, by the way. Any ideas, Doc?
Oh
What do you
yeah,
think?
yeah. It's a swamp lily. Yeah, and it's a native
pretty.
lily. It's beautiful. It smells good, and I have it all in my yard.
Oh, you have that too?
I do too, and
at
it's
you.
in a shady kind of a wet place because it likes, you'll see it around bottomland.
Uh-huh.
He said
Swamp.
close to the hatchie.
Hatchie,
So
right.
hatchie bottom, we
Yeah,
know that there's
uh-huh.
all kind of wonderful and weird things that go on in hatchie bottom. So Heminocalis is the genus. It's in the Amaryllis family. So it's a bulb.
Didn't know
It's
that.
bulbous. And so it can, propagate itself and you can colonize, have a little colony of it going on. It's kind of, it likes where I have it in my yard. And it's blooming now.
Oh, so it's blooming now.
Shortly. It's been
Okay.
out of bloom now a couple of weeks. But in North Mississippi, we've passed the bloom on about 2 weeks ago. But it's beautiful. Smells good. Yeah, really,
what's that?
really beautiful native flower.
Native flower.
Heminocalis, swamp
Heminocalis.
lily.
Swamp
Yep.
lily.
Yeah, I
Anything
think
to add to
I actually think I've seen that in catalogs too.
Oh yeah.
So, if you want more, search out the internet
Yeah.
for some places that sell the bulbs. Plant some more.
That's good. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate that. Good picture again.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful picture. All right, Joy, Dr. Kelly, wasn't that fun?
Yeah. We need more questions.
More. It's
Yeah,
a
we
lot
want
of
more.
fun.
Yeah.
We'll keep going.
We'll keep going. Keep going. All right. Thank you much.
Sure.
Thank you much.
It's fun.
Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. That was a lot of questions. If we did not answer yours, go to familyplotgarden.com and search for your question. We have answered hundreds of questions about all sorts of gardening issues. If we haven't answered your problem, send it to us and we will answer it on the show. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.